You're listening to The First Question with Paul Hendrick, brought to you by Ballistic Sports. Follow Ballistic Sports on Twitter @Ballistic Sports. Mimico, Ontario is tucked into the southwest corner of Toronto. It's a blue-collar community. Its people's character steeped in work ethic and an overall commitment to each other. Not surprisingly, the native son Dave Bolland would display such characteristics en route to a slew of championships along the way, including 2 Stanley Cups. Dave, for those of us not familiar with your hometown hood, describe its ambience, its homes, and best of all, its citizens as you grew up with your family and brothers on Alma Avenue.
Yeah, 100%. Growing up in Mimico was just a blue-collar community. Everybody went to work. They did their job. My dad worked. My mom did babysitting, but nobody really got a free ride there, and it wasn't easy. You had to work for what you wanted, and then you had to do it. So my dad went to work every day, and by the time he got home from work, he had to pack. I had to pack my bag, and he'd be going right to the hockey rink. So it was always busy, but it was just a hardworking community.
And in the shadows of the Campbell Soup plant, and now modern day, even further west of that, the Maple Leaf practice facility. Things are changing a little bit, but the soup plant is still there.
Yeah, I think it's still there. To be honest, I haven't gone back in a while. I'm living in London, Ontario, and I kind of would go from London to Florida back and forth now that I'm retired. But it was always nice waking up to the Campbell Soup smell in the morning of tomato soup or chicken noodle.
Yeah, tomatoes my go-to. Your father, Drew, he immigrated from Scotland. Not exactly a hockey hotbed, as you know, Dave. How much did you know of the sport of hockey before he stepped foot onto this continent?
Nothing. We didn't know anything. My dad was, football, be soccer, but we'd always have a soccer ball around the house. But my uncle that was already over here and was always already familiar with hockey and kind of got my brother started. And from there on, after watching my brother around 5 years old, 6 years old, that's when I got the itch and told my parents that I wanted to play. And then from there on, it's history.
Let's get back to the neighborhood. Lakeshore, 850 degrees, a restaurant, as homegrown as there is. They even have a pizza named after you. I've had it and I can recommend it. But if you're to recommend to someone coming into the hood to go for a sandwich, where are they going?
To go for a sandwich?
San Remo.
San Remo is the place. Yeah, for pizza. Yeah, and the chicken parm. Yeah, 100%. San Remo is one of the places, but there's a lot of new places that are hopping up there that I always see on Instagram and everything. So there's a lot going on there now, and there's a lot of just the buildings and condos. It's changed since I was there as a young kid. It's rapidly growing, and things are getting bigger and better there. Yeah, Brendan Shanahan. I remember him. His first interview with Kyle Dubas. This wasn't at a prominent steakhouse or seafood place. They went to San Remo's for a sandwich. I mean, for Brendan, that's just bringing it home. Do you recall that first meeting with Brendan and seeing the Stanley Cup when you were just a youngster? Yeah, I do. It was pretty cool just going to the Blue Goose and having the Stanley Cup there and present and seeing it in real life. And I know everybody's like, don't touch it. I had my hand around it. I grabbed it and did everything to it. But yeah, to go on to win 2 Stanley Cups and to bring it back home to Mimico was a big accomplishment. You grew up playing hockey and lacrosse. Describe the Mimico Arena, not built for comfort in midwinter and certainly not midsummer. What do you recall about that facility in those early days, just north of where you grew up? Yeah, just Mimico Arena was always was kind of the place that I'd go. If my parents came out looking for me or wanted to find me, I'd always be either at the back of Mimico Arena playing with my lacrosse stick during the summertime, or it would be hockey during the winter. So Mimico was always a cold place. I remember walking in there when I was younger, and it was always fun. And when the game eventually, once the game started getting evolved and getting better and things came up higher for me, I traveled outside of Mimico and was playing in
GTHL, and things got a little further. So, but growing up in Mimico and being around Mimico Arena was always great.
First of your many championships was the All-Ontario run in Bantam with the Toronto Red Wings. I think Brian Bickle was a part of that group. What made that year such a valuable year in terms of launching your hockey career as young as you were back then?
Yeah, 100%. Bix and I were, it's pretty crazy that we played Toronto for the Toronto Red Wings for about 3 or 4 years. So Bix and I've known Bix for a long time now, and he's one of the great teammates and a great person to have in the team, and just from size to character and just from funniness. He's always got a smile on his face, and he's always happy to be at the rink. So, but going to the Bantam finals that year was a big accomplishment and kind of helped me as well, just to boost my status and just to boost my last kind of little hurrah and show the scout to say what I had. And I think after that I went, now we're going back a long time now. I think I went 8th overall or 7th overall to the London Knights. And just, I think in that last game of the Ontario Bantam Cup there, I think I had like 4 or 5 points, and I kind of stuck out and kind of showed my true colors, and that kind of led my way to the London Knights.
And my research says you had 4 points in that game, but we'll give you the 5th a few years later.
Yeah.
Meeting the Hunters for the first time, Mark and Dale. They're a unique group. They're farmers by heart and hockey players equally so.
Yeah, Dale and Mark are basically family to me now. Dylan Hunter and I, we've been best friends since I joined here. I lived with them for a few years when I played here, and then we've been great friends ever since. We both live here in London. We basically see each other every other day. So I see Dale, I see Mark. Well, not with the pandemic and all this stuff going on, but most of the time when hockey's going on here in London, I'm retired, so half the time I go to the rink and hang out with them and shoot around and talk, and we just basically talk hockey, and it's always great just to go back and even just to help the kids and give my 2 cents and what I've learned growing up and what hearing the stories as well.
You make the club as a 16-year-old, but you've got to pay your dues. You're allocated 4th line minutes. What was the transition like that first year out of Bantam? Did it motivate you for the next year as you moved on? I mean, your numbers retired there, so obviously you learned from the experience, but I guess you knew you had to bide your time.
100% I had to. And when I got to London, I didn't know anything about defense. I didn't really care about defense. Defense wasn't really a thing in minor hockey. You don't really get taught it. So once I got up to London, I used to circle around. I'd come back and I'd just wait for a pass, but I was still 15, 16, and I was still growing. I was probably weighing like 140 pounds, not even. And I was playing against guys that were at 4 years older than me. So I kind of had to learn pretty quick. And Dale taught me that a lot. He kind of said, hey, if you're not going to play defense, you're not going to play. So he kind of embedded that in my head, and I kind of had to learn, hey, like if I don't play defense, and that kind of turned my game around. And hey, from that first year to the next year, I think I had about 60 or 70 points, and got drafted to the Chicago Blackhawks, and that's kind of how I kind of felt my way, and I kind of knew, hey, like this hockey thing could work, and I could play in the NHL someday. And then I went on to, we won a Memorial Cup with the London Knights. But yeah, so it's just one of those things you have to learn, and having Dale and Mark there was huge for me, and it was big for me.
That Mem Cup team is 04-05. Let's jump to that season. Arguably the greatest junior team in the history of hockey. 79-9-2, Dave. You guys had to know something was up at training camp, just how good you were. Recall back then as training camp begins, and that nothing short of a Memorial Cup obviously was going to be your goal with the club. From net on out, how much balance there was with that group?
Well, 100%. I don't think at training camp we really knew, because I think there was the lockout that year, and I didn't think I think Corey Perry would have been gone. So, and I think maybe one or two other older guys may have been gone. So we did get pretty lucky with the lockout, and all the light was shined on us actually, because like we started off the season, we didn't think anything big of it, and I think we went like 32-0 or 33 games. I forget what the record was, but we went the first how many games without a loss. Until about Christmas time. I think we lost some guys that went to World Juniors. But that team was, I'm pretty sure every guy on that team has played a game in pro or something like that. I think there was a stat that came out that we all eventually all of us played a game somewhere in the NHL, the AHL, or the East Coast League. And that's pretty incredible. You don't really see that. You kind of see 4 or 5 guys from a team that make it or do well or something goes on, but that season was pretty special. We had a great team with Dylan Hunter, Rob Schrump, and a few other guys that were just top line, and it's pretty funny that we knew coming into most games that, hey, if we're playing this team, we're going to have about 3 or 4 points each. So it was a magical season and fun.
Yeah, including shutting down Sidney Crosby in the Mem final. Corey Perry's the last of that group, by the way, still in the National Hockey League at the age of 35. Preceding him, Mark Mathot and Dan Girardi. Looking at Corey, and I'm going to say this respectively, he's a freak of nature in so many ways. Are you surprised at all that he's still playing and still as effective as he is, just having been to the Stanley Cup final?
No, 100%. Perez is he's one of those guys that he loves the game. I think when guys get older, some guys, hey, sometimes it comes to the end and you want to just kind of say, hey, like, my time's done. But I think Corey, he loves the game and he wants to play until he probably can't move or until he's dead. So he's, I think in my mind, he'll be a Hall of Famer and he'll be in the Hall of Fame. So he still has it. He can still play the game and he can still rub guys the wrong way and draw a few penalties out there. So just to see what he's still doing and see what happens in these next year or two if he goes back.
Let's go to the draft. And I remember talking with a relative of Coach Q's, John Quenville, who went 30th overall in 2014. That's the last pick of the opening round. He told me that it was the most nervous time of his life. You've got the suit, you're in the stands, you're waiting, and you're thinking, I'm one name away from having to come back the next day. What was it like for you as you knew you were in the mix somewhere there to go either Friday night and if not early the next morning?
Excuse me. No, 100% that every kid wants to go first round. You want to have your name called. You want to have your walk up to the podium. You want to do the whole thing. But for me at the time, I was happy going to Chicago. I think when you get in that 10th, sorry, that 20th to 30th pick, you kind of get, some guys kind of get stuck in the rotation, and a lot of those teams are good. A lot of those teams are in the finals or close to the finals, and excuse me. And a lot of those teams are still in the mix of, hey, like, we have a great team, we have a lot of depth, and like where are we going to fit some of these guys in? So you got to be pretty good to make those to make that lineup. And for me, going 32nd overall to Chicago was not good. They're trying to find a way. They're trying to rebuild, but and then I kind of got kicked in there, and I kind of found my way, and I was on the team.
What may have sold Dale Talon and the Blackhawks, if you recall back to the combine and your interview with that hockey club that said, "Hey, we're going to draft a smallish player but a skilled guy with all sorts of grit"? What do you recall about that interview with Dale?
Dale is basically same as he's like a second father. He was always great to me, and he always helped me out in any kind of way. But I vaguely now recall our interview. It's so long ago, but it was always just I know he knew that he talked to Dale, and he knew that, hey, like, this kid's got to grow. He's got 3 other brothers that are big bone and pretty big, and big in size. So I remember Dale and Mark being like, "Oh, this kid, same thing." They came and met my family, and they're like, "Oh, like I saw these three brothers, and he's got to grow. He's got to get bigger. It's got to come." So eventually it did come, but I didn't get the same size as them. But same with Dale, and I think just what I had, my grit, that I just never gave up on anything, and I wanted to play. I was just a kid that, hey, they put me in any situation, and if I can't score, then I could become a checker. If I can't check, I'll become something else. So all I want to do is play hockey and win. So I think Dale kind of saw that in my heart and my character and what I brought to the combine and in our meetings. So I think he saw what we had and that it was going to be something special.
Something special as well would describe the World Junior Gold Medal in Vancouver in 2006. But before you get an opportunity to do that, you go to 2 previous camps, you're cut the 1 year, then the following year, you're the last cut. And I know TSN made an entire docudrama on all of this, but the phone call, the knock on the door, what was it like for you, especially the year before you did make the team, to be that last cut, knowing that your heart was going to be broken for a second straight year?
No, 100%. That going to that camp, and I thought I had a great outing there. I thought everything was great. It was I forget who my roommate was, but I think we were the two, or no, it was between me and Colin Fraser that eventually we both became teammates. But I was a younger guy, and hey, like they called me in the room and said, hey, like you're the last cut. This is just the way it goes. A lot of older guys here, and you're a younger guy, but don't worry. Next year will be your year, and you'll be back here, and you'll be a huge part of this team. So for me, it was not really much of a kick in the balls. That team was a great team, and it was incredible what they did, and like just the amount of players that were on that team that was crazy. But going into the next year, I knew I was going to make the team, and I knew things were going to be great. But as the media put it, and a lot of people put it, that we didn't have a chance. They kind of put us as like we might finish 6th, 7th, we might not even get a medal, and to go in to win it and to win the gold medal was a huge part, and even do it in Vancouver was a big part as well.
You get to Chicago the following year. Training camp, however, I think you suffer a shoulder injury. December, there's a concussion. You've got to spend some time in the American Hockey League. Looking back, how valuable was the time in the A in terms of healing and just getting you ready to make the jump the following year?
No, 100%. I think unless you're a superstar like Sidney Crosby, Patrick Kane, and all these guys, I think a year in the AHL is great for kids, and it's great for building up character and building up just whatever you need to work on. Same thing. I was still putting up big points in the OHL. I think I had 140 points or 30 points my last year. For me, I kind of thought, well, I'm just going to roll into this year and put 50 goals up as an NHL player. But it's a lot harder and it's a lot tougher. It's not like everybody thinks that it's just going to roll right in. So I had to kind of go down, pay my dues, learn the game a lot more, because there's a lot more to learn up in the NHL. So I had Mike Havlin as my coach in Norfolk, and he was great for me. He eventually came up and was a part of our Stanley Cup team, but he was great for me, a great mentor, and just great on working with my game and taking care of what I needed. He was always great. So I played a game there, a year there. And then I think I played a little bit in Rockford until I eventually got my status and stayed in Chicago.
I just finished reading a book by Ken Dryden on Scotty Bowman. I can't recommend it enough. But he talks about how it's important to lose, to experience the disappointment of defeat. The Blackhawks in the spring of 2009 get to the Western Conference Final against the Detroit Red Wings. How important was that loss, do you think, looking ahead to what happened in the magic of 2010 as you guys get to win that first Stanley Cup and the first in franchise history in such a long time?
No, I always bring that up as well. I think us losing to Detroit was big and improving and for us to learn from. And like we knew that we had a team We were missing a few things. I think Hosa Kopecky came in. And I think Cristobal Huey came in after that. But we kind of learned, and we kind of knew, like losing to a guy like Datsuk and Zetterberg and Lindstrom, it was kind of cool watching videos, and like I kind of took little things off Datsuk and Zetterberg and saw what they did and kind of put it into my game. But just learning and just having that experience was big for us, and I think we learned a lot from losing in that Western Conference Finals, and we knew we were just missing a few parts, and I think we took care of that. Dale took care of that the next year, and after that we went on and won a Stanley Cup.
2013 Cup is won in Boston. You're down 3-1 in Detroit. You win that series in Game 7 in overtime. I mean, it's such a fine line. Then you beat the defending Stanley Cup champions from Los Angeles, and then you beat Boston. This team at that point certainly knew how to win, didn't they? And we talk about the time, 17 seconds, as all Hawk fans remember, two former Toronto Red Wings, Bickell and Bolland, combining to score. That series was so close, Dave. What allowed it to change so quickly on a dime? Is this just hockey and this is why we play the games?
100%. I remember that was the lockout year. I came into the playoffs. I think I missed the first round with a groin injury, and like just playing the half year and having a groin injury, and like, okay, well, so I think I came back. I think I did some PRP, and I came back in like a week or two, pretty quick. And then we beat Detroit. I remember Seabrook's goal. I think I hit Nyquist, I think it was, or I'm not sure which kid it was, and the puck popped out to Seeds, and Seeds went down, and we won OT, and you're like, okay, like we have a chance here. We're going to go to the finals. Like we're going to have a chance to win this Stanley Cup again. And from our 2010 team, we already had a few guys that were there, myself, Seeds, Taser, Kaner, and we had some guys that we filled in that took care of the other situations and kind of helped us. But going into that Boston series and to that final game of Game 6, I remember it was 2-1, and we were like, okay, well, we won in Philadelphia. It would be nice to go back home and win it in Chicago and do it in front of our home fans. So I think that's what I was thinking about. We weren't really thinking about, hey, we can win this right now. But Bix went and scored. It was 2-2. We're like, okay, well, let's just hold off and get to overtime, and we can we can win in overtime. So. I remember Q put my line out there with Krugs and Frolik, and I remember Q just saying, "Hey, just let's protect this. Let's protect this. Let's just get to overtime, and we'll finish in overtime." So we were out there against Krejci and Lucic, their top line. I just remember winning the draw. I think the play came back into our zone, went over to Krug, or went to me. I kind of got over the blue line, threw it out to I think it was Krugs or Fro that was on my right side. He shot it, came around. I went to the back of the net. One of our players threw it back to Johnny Oduya. I just remember, I was like, I need to get in front. So came from behind the net. I know most guys probably would have stayed behind that net and would have waited for that puck to come around. And once I got back to Johnny Oduya, I kind of just got to the front of the net and kind of got in front of Boychuk, and it hit the post and dropped right down in front of me, and boom, it was in the back of the net, and I threw my gloves off. They got caught in Johnny Boychuk's. I know everybody asked, like, "Do you think it was overtime? Do you think the game was over?" I was like, "No, actually, like, Boychuk came across and chopped my hands after I shot it, and when I went to pull it, he just kept on holding it. So I just said, screw it, threw my gloves off, and I wanted to celebrate with my teammates and celebrate for the goals. So what a moment. That'll be probably one of the biggest moments of my life. I know every kid dreams of scoring a Stanley Cup goal. I know we all dream about it. But to have Bix and I kind of finish that off as playing together since we were kids and doing that was pretty special.
And ironically, a few years later, you're in that same building to watch St. Louis defeat Boston in Game 7. I mean, you weren't far from where you actually scored the goal. How surreal a moment was that to be sitting there then to see Bozy and the rest of that gang celebrating a championship?
No, 100%, 100%. I remember we flew down with Dale Hunter, Dylan Hunter, and a few buddies. We flew down to St. Louis to watch them beat San Jose. And we went to see Chief Berube with Dale and saw Bozy and saw the other guys. And it was pretty special watching it there in St. Louis. And then they went to go play Boston. And one of my buddies, he's like, "Hey, do you just want to hop on the plane and go to Boston and watch a game?" I was like, "I'd love to. It's nice to get away and go watch some hockey. Love hockey." So we found we got some seats right behind the net for that final game, and it was literally right in that. I was literally sitting probably 10 feet from where I finished it off in Boston. So it was great to see Bozy win a Stanley Cup and Carl Gunnarsson. It's a pretty special thing to win a Stanley Cup and to be a part of that and to have your name imprinted on the Stanley Cup.
Great quote from Ken Dryden's book, Scotty. The Hawks were the first dynasty of the modern post-cap NHL era. I just wonder the way things are going. They might be the last.
100%. 100%. I think that team we had in 2010 could have been, if there was no cap, I think we could have won 6 Stanley Cups. We had a special team. If you look at all those guys on that team, basically everyone on that team is probably making about $5.5 million or more on any other team. We had guys like the depth that we had was unbelievable, from Kaner to Taser to Hossa to Kopecky to myself to Ben Eager to Andrew Ladd, Steger. Like the depth was unbelievable, because any given night, if Kaner and Taser weren't producing, then it could have been me and Steger. If it wasn't me and Steger, it could have been Laddie and someone else. And even with our defense core, it was unbelievable. And like you said, that 100%, like that's the last dynasty you'll ever see to do it in between the cap rules these days.
Let me quote Kenny one last time. The right core is the rising tide that raises all ships. Do you see any similarities of that Blackhawk team in its early beginnings with this current group of Toronto Maple Leafs and the elite core that they have?
100%, I do. I think they're missing a few things. I think they need a little bit more depth, and they need a little bit more defense. But you see guys like Matthews and Marner, Tavares. These guys want to win. I know Marner really well, just from being in London, and he's a special player. He plays both ends of the ice. He knows what to do out there. He'll sacrifice his body for anything. And you can see that these guys want to win. And now you have a guy like Joe Thornton going there that's been around the league for how many years, and he's dying to win a Stanley Cup. And that's one guy that I hope sees to win a Stanley Cup. I know Joe he's not far from here, from London, and knows a lot of people, so we kind of know cross ends, but playing against him, he's a great competitor and a great guy. So it'd be great to see Joe Thornton win a Stanley Cup with the Leafs.
You were very proactive in 2018 when Mitch was going through his contract dispute, even comparing him to Austin and saying he might be more valuable. I mean, this is apples and oranges. They're both outstanding hockey players, but I guess it just sort of goes to Mitch's versatility, doesn't it, and what he's able to do out there, both ends of the ice.
Oh, 100%. And I'm not taking anything away from Austin Matthews. He's a goal scorer. He puts up big goals, and hey, but as how I see it in my eyes is Mitch Marner. He plays both ends of the ice. He penalty kills. You've seen a lot of those I forget what series it was. He threw his body in front of that puck about 2 or 3 times and took a few shots. I'm not saying Austin Matthews would do that, but I just see I'm a little more one-sided with Mitch, just because I know Mitch really well, and he came from London, and that's it. They're 2 special players, and hey, like they have something going on there that's special, and I hope they figure it out quick here. and win a Stanley Cup quick. Because like you said with Chicago when we were playing, we knew. I remember Dale Talon coming in the room the first few years that we were there, and he said, "Hey, like we have something special here. We need to figure it out quick, because I know a lot of you want to get paid, and a lot of you are going to be gone, and if we don't figure it out quick here, our time's done." And I feel that's what Toronto is right now, that they need to figure things out quick, get things together, and win a Stanley Cup.
Social media, Dave, you're as antagonistic in it as you are on the ice, and you can be just as effective as you are on Twitter. You were at your trolling best last March, and I quote, "Stuck on a plane in Vancouver, waiting to get out of the city. Please hurry and get me out of the city." Did you get the response you wanted to generate from Van City?
Oh, 100%. It's fun. Like when we would go to play Vancouver, the fans were great. They get on me, and that's what you want. Like we had a great rivalry, and I don't think you'll ever see that rivalry again in hockey. That was two teams that hated each other, and like we could play the Leafs one night and we'd have a game, but when Vancouver came in, it was like, okay, let's get ready. Like put the foil on and let's have some fun. Like we knew it was going to be a bloodbath. But it's pretty funny. I've got a lot of good friends in Vancouver, so I go out there once in a while. But when I think I was delayed that time for about 4 or 5 hours. I was just sitting on the plane, and I was like, well, let's have some fun with some Vancouver fans. And it's pretty easy to get them going, and I had some fun with them.
It all dates back to 3 straight playoff runs against the Canucks, and your lineup against the Sedins. You were always on them. You call them the sisters. I know you're having some fun. Alain Vigneault compared your IQ to a birdseed, and that you had a face that only a mother could look at. Not sure what Carol Ann would have thought, but I think you achieved the response you wanted, didn't you, in terms of the head games in a tight series?
Oh, 100%. I remember I made those comments. Before we would go to bars, and it wasn't live. We'd just sit with fans, and fans would be like, "Oh, what do you think about the Vancouver Canucks?" And the Chicago fans hate them, so we'd be like, screw them, blah blah blah, chirp them, and the fans would go crazy, and they loved it. So I think the one time we did it at Harry Carey's, and it was big. A lot of people were there. I know, like the GM was there of our team, and so I, clueless, totally forgot that it was live. And they brought up the Sedins, and I was like, "Oh, all the fans are here, so let's get the fans going." And I remember I chirped them, and then when TSN got a hold of it, and we're like, "Oh shit!" And like, here it goes. So it was pretty funny, and I was ready to come back with a comment at Alain Vigneault, and Joel's like, "Don't even think about it." He's like, "Shut it down now." I was like, "Okay." So I shut it down, but I eventually I got in their heads, and I just remember going to play them the next game, and everybody wanted to kill me. And I remember it was Burroughs that he's like, let's go. And I said, I don't really want to fight tonight. And eventually he took a stupid penalty on me, and we capitalized, and someone else took a stupid penalty on me, and we capitalized, and that's just what it was. And I think Alain Vigneault was probably the worst for them. I think he was the worst coach for them, because he just got them riled up. Yeah. I forget who played with us. It came from Vancouver, and I remember asking him questions. I'm like, "Hey, like what was going on with you guys?" He's like, "You know what?" He's like, "You used to get in our heads so much that Vigneault would just be like, fuck, let's kill this kid. Like, let's." And I just remember guys coming after me, starting shit, and they take an instigator when we put Kane or Taze and Sharpie out there, and we would capitalize. And it was pretty funny that, to be honest, like they were a great team too. They had a lot of depth. I think if they beat us, I'm pretty sure they would have went on to win the Stanley Cup those few years. But I think I got in their head enough that it just turned corners, and we capitalized on most of the shifts.
I know you're doing this under the weather. We're going to wrap this up in a couple of questions here. We only had you here, Dave, in Toronto for a short while. 15 games in, you've got 6 goals. The club's off to a tremendous start. And then we head out west for that trip. And then that collision with Zach Kassian and the boards, you've got your ankle tendon severed. I mean, it was it was terrible, not only for you, for the team. They were never the same afterwards, but that had to hurt as much emotionally as it did physically, because it certainly did impact the rest of your career.
Oh, 100% it did, 100%. Once I heard Stan Bowman call, I remember sitting we were watching the draft, and I kind of knew something was going to happen here. I kind of knew, hey, like there's rumblings and that something's going to happen, and I knew something was going to happen. So I was just sitting there. I think I was sitting with Carcillo, and we were just hanging out. It was after we won the cup. I'm pretty sure we were having a few beers, and Stan called. He's like, hey, I was like, I know why you're calling. He goes, okay. He goes, just want to thank you for everything that you did for us and everything for Chicago, but we traded you. And I said, okay. I was like, well, where am I going? And he's like, well, you're going back home to Toronto. And that was kind of, that was respectful. And for Stan to do that for me was great too. And when I heard I was leaving, I was sad, but once I heard I was going to Toronto, it kind of gave me an extra boost to come home and play for my home team. Watching Doug Gilmour and Wendell Clark and watching what they did, I was ecstatic and excited to come to Toronto and to be a Leaf.
We'll end it on this. You're retired, but you're only 34. You've mentioned it. You're down at the rink all the time. You're a rink rat. You always have been. Do you see yourself getting into coaching a little bit as your family grows up and maybe you've got a little more time to do some things?
I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Before the pandemic here, I was going to move back to Chicago and start doing some alumni stuff with them. But the COVID-19 happened and kind of the borders closed, and I'm pretty sure visas and everything got shut down. So as of right now, I'm just hanging out, enjoying time with my family, with my daughter, and we're just I have another baby on the way with my wife here in London, and we're just kind of working towards something. I don't know what, but if something falls in the lap and something comes around, maybe I'll take it. But I do miss Chicago. I miss everything about Chicago. My whole life was Chicago when I got there as a teenager, and then going on to about 26, 27 years old. I lived there, and those are my years. I miss Chicago a whole lot, and hopefully in the future years that I do move back there and maybe do something with the Hawks, I'd be appreciated for that.
Well, 2 Stanley Cups, a Memorial Cup, a World Junior Championship, and let's not forget a Bantam Championship with the Toronto Red Wings. It's a loaded resume that found its beginnings in Mimico, Ontario, a hockey career incredibly well-lived and will continue to do so. Dave, thanks for this.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me.
You're listening to The First Question with Paul Hendrick, brought to you by Ballistic Sports. Follow Ballistic Sports on Twitter @Ballistic Sports.